Hey everyone, welcome back to the Love Is series. My name is Fatima and this is my husband Richard. We have been married for 5 years and we are so excited to just be a part of this Love Is series. Today we're going to be talking about something a little different. We are talking about love perseveres. Now let me tell you about perseverance. Okay, perseverance is not easy.
No.
I think a lot of times people look at married couples or like see your pictures on Facebook and you're smiling and everything's all dandy.
Yep.
But sometimes people don't understand the work that goes into it on the back end. You know, perseverance is one of those factors. You have to continuously persevere in your marriage, persevere to love your partner. Persevere in the dark times. Persevere when things are good. So I think it's very important to understand the concept of perseverance, because if you cannot persevere in your marriage, then I don't want to tell you, it's probably gonna go a little different than you expect, because it's so hard, like I said before, to die to your flesh, to continue to push. Like society tells us nowadays, when the going gets tough, you get going. But the Bible tells us something totally different. You know, he says persevere. You know, love perseveres. That means you got to keep chasing. You got to keep standing on what you believe in your marriage. Just like how Jesus chases us. He never lets go of us. Even when we do things that are unacceptable, he still chases us. He perseveres because he wants us in his kingdom to grow and to learn. And so likewise in marriage, we have to take that concept and say, I have to persevere to what? Love my husband. I have to persevere to raise our children in the goal that we've set. I have to persevere if things don't go the way we plan, because God's plans are not our plans.
Nope.
So we have to really understand perseverance and that concept of it's through thick and thin. It doesn't just happen when it best suits you. So I'll let you touch base on that a little bit.
You know, I like, it's like that term, ride or die.
Right.
You know, but and with God is, you're always gonna ride, and you're gonna be with that person, you know, and through whatever, you know, it is, you're gonna be there for that person, you know. And it's what's very amazing about that particular part of 1 Corinthians 13. It says love always perseveres.
Always, that's key.
Always, you know, it's not just a one act thing. You know what I mean? Like, I love you, and I'm gonna continue to battle for you every day, every night, every morning. It's a continuous act. You know, it's an action. It's an ongoing thing. It's not just one thing that you do. You know, you're not. You can't say, "Well, I fought for her last week. I'm done this week. She on her own."
Right.
No, it can't be like that. You know, because with your spouse, with your better half, your wife, your husband, you know, is till death do you part. You know, so it's a long time. God willing, it's a long time. So I mean, you have to continue to strive for it. You know, my wife, Myrna was talking, and she mentioned something that was very crucial about it. Perseverance is not just one way, but it's two-way. Meaning that your wife, your husband, both have to want to persevere for your marriage. Y'all both have to fight for your marriage. It can't just be one party. You know, it can't just be the wife, or it can't just be the husband that said, I love this woman, or I love this man, I'm going to fight for him. No. Because that person who's fighting continuously is going to end up draining.
Yeah.
And then that person who is so nonchalant and don't give two cares in the world, you know, that person is going to either, you know, say, okay, I'm done, or cheat on the relationship, you know. But I say this because once that gets to that point, you've already allowed Satan in.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's where I was going with that, because we have to understand that, how can I put it? Sin doesn't just pop up. Hi, I'm here. We allow it in our space. We allow it in our lives. And so, like you said, if one person is continuously, pressing, I'm the one persevering, I'm the one praying for our marriage, I'm the one doing this, I'm the one doing that, and the other person is kind of like dormant, that person's gonna get exhausted, and that's when thoughts and that door begins to open for the enemy, because then he's like, well, let me just go find somebody that's gonna appreciate me.
Yeah.
Let me go find somebody that's going to want to fight for me. And that's how these thoughts come, and then the enemy's like, got him. I got him.
Another one.
Exactly. And so we have to understand, I think, and I've said this before, when you are in a situation and you're about to react, think about this. What is the enemy's goal right now? If I allow the enemy to succeed right now, how will this end? So I think, like I said before, when we begin to understand the enemy's goal and how he operates, we begin to think differently, because he knows the avenues to jump in. Like, I know we were even talking about this last week. Like, one of my pet peeves is when I tell him something and I'm like, look, I'm a type A personality, so I'm like 5 o'clock. And he's like, 5:05, 5:10, 5:15. And so the enemy knows that's going to send me off a cliff. So what do? He'll find some way to divert him, and then he forgets all about the time. And I'm sitting like, okay, 5:01. Okay, 5:01 I can bear a little bit. 5:05 I'm like, 100. Then I start, you know what, when he gets here. And then you just start building up, and then when he gets in, I'm like, why are you late? And then it just creates this whole thing. So when you begin to, like now, whenever that happens, or something, the enemy comes in to say, oh, here he goes again, coming late after you guys have planned so and so, I'm just like, you know what, not today. It's okay. It's 15 minutes. It's cool. We can have that conversation. We can have that conversation later. So I bring that up just to say, you have to understand what makes you tick.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn how to persevere. You have to learn how to want to chase joy. And if I decide to argue with you and fight with you about time, I'm not persevering. I'm not persevering for joy. I'm allowing the enemy to steal my joy. So if you want to persevere in your marriage, you have to understand the areas where where you kind of lose that balance. Because if I want to persevere for joy, I can't let the enemy steal my joy. So you have to find those balances of being able to tell yourself, you know what, not today. I'm joy is right there. That's what I'm persevering for, and that's what I'm going for.
It's amazing you talk about joy, because there's a passage in the Bible, in James actually, that talks about consider pure joy when you're going through trials of many kinds. Mm-hmm. And suffering, trials, is not easy. Mm-hmm. And I don't consider my joy, like suffering, joyous, joyful at all. Mm-hmm. I consider like, man, this sucks. Yeah. Like, it hurts. But you talk about how the enemy tries to steal our joy. That we have to persevere through that in our marriage. We have to first understand, right, the process that perseverance takes us through, or that suffering builds. Romans 5:3. I'm gonna read that out. Mm-hmm. It says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character. Character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us. You know, God does not do anything just because, there's he's smart. He has a plan, and he says love always persevere because he knows that perseverance builds your character. And in your marriage, when you persevere through any trial, through a rough time, through some suffering of any kind, it's gonna shape your marriage.
Yeah.
Now, it can either shape your marriage one of two ways. If you are battling together for your marriage will see a light. It will make it through. But if only one party is fighting for their marriage and the other person is nonchalant about it, that marriage is gonna go sideways. Like my wife was saying, one person is gonna say, "Oh, I've done this, and I'm gonna chase after somebody that values me," and then the other person that's nonchalant about the marriage, probably got a girlfriend on the side or something like that, or just doing something that they're not supposed to. But once you guys are both persevering through it and you guys make it out, there's a joy and there's a growth in the marriage, to say, okay, another challenge come, babe, we got it. And let me make this nice and clear, because by your own strength, by our own strength, by our flesh, we can't do it. Let's just make that nice and clear real quick. We can't do it. But once we allow God to be the center, for me and my wife, the center, and then once God is in the mix of your marriage, and he is the priority of your marriage, you will make it through. And you know what? My mentor had told me, he said, marriage, he's like, you and your spouse have to come to this knowledge that if both parties, right, is chasing after God, right, you're gonna meet in the middle. But if both parties chasing after each other, you're gonna collide and God is not there. Because now you're building this, how do you say it? Like, you're putting that person in front of God. But once you guys are chasing after God, there's an order.
I think it's like we always say, once the vertical relationship is good, then the horizontals at the bottom begin to flow.
Yeah. Absolutely. And once that character is built, right, then there's hope. There's hope. There's new life, in your marriage, new joy, new excitement. But we can't get so carried away and say, oh, because everything is perfect, things not gonna go back, we're not gonna have a hard time. No, that hope is to say, okay, God has seen this through. There's a brighter day, there's a brighter light, and there will always be a brighter day and brighter light once we rely on God, regardless of whatever comes our way.
And I know and I don't interrupt you, but I know we've had our share of perseverance.
Ooh, that's another
and I know that I was the one ringing the perseverance bell, saying we got this. I know for us, like in our first 2 years of marriage was really kind of rocky because we had just moved. You were the only one working. Finances were a little shaky. And it was just a lot of tension going on. Should I ask for $20? I don't have gas. Should I do my nails? So we had to do a lot of shifting that I think we both weren't used to, because
I think I did your nails a few times, didn't I?
Maybe. But I feel like we had to do shifting because I'm used to, okay, I'm single, I got my own money, I can do my nails. Now I'm like, okay, I'm stuck with this person, he's the only one working. Do I ask for $20? Do I buy gas? You know what I mean? So I think that was our season of perseverance. And like you said, it built character.
Yeah.
You know, because I know after the first year, then when you would get worried, I'm like, you know what? I'll always tell him like, why are you stressing? I'm like,
stressing no more.
I'm like, God got this. Like, it's cool. And he'd just be like, yeah, I know, but you know, I think I had learned my first year, and then the second year was his turn, and I was like, you know what, God's gonna do this. And there were so many times when we persevered in that time, and God would show up.
Yeah.
You know, unexpectedly, God would show up. We'd look in the account, and we're like,
where'd
that come from? You know, so I think perseverance, like the scripture says in Romans 5, it builds character, because after those 2 years, I think we kind of knew how to now solely and wholly rely on God and know that He's gonna provide. So even in times now where we're like, oh, I don't know, oh, is this gonna happen? We're like, you know what? He's done it before. He can do it again. Yeah. So perseverance through that time built character, and then it builds hope, because now we have hope. We're like, we know God's gonna do this, so there's hope, you know. So perseverance, I feel like, is not only through the hardship. That's part of it. It builds, you know, it builds your character. Perseverance is also persevering God in your marriage. You know, making Him the center, chasing after Him every single day. Both collectively and individually, you know, making Him the center. Because once we do that, then everything begins to flow. So I think that perseverance is necessary. I know, like, a lot of times we ask, like, I don't know, my husband and I have friends that are older than us, which I like, because we get so much wisdom from them. And I know one of the things we always ask, wow, 30 years, wow, 20 years, wow, 15 years, you know, and we just are amazed by it, and we will always ask, so, you know, what keeps it going? And the number one answer we get is God. Number one. Number two is discipline, perseverance, constantly chasing your spouse. It doesn't matter now that you've got her for 10 years, you know, you still gotta chase, you still gotta put God first, you know. And so I think the majority of those couples that we look up to tell us discipline, and put God first. So I think perseverance is in all areas of your marriage. It's with your spouse, it's with God, it's through the hard times. So don't stop persevering just when things get tough. Don't bail out, you know, because you don't know what that's gonna build in you. And I'm thankful that we persevered through our first 2 years of marriage, you know, marriage, of trials, you know. And people always say, if you make it past the first 2 years, you guys are good. But I'm like, no, we want to make it past 10 years. We want to make it past 15 years. We want to make it past 20, 30, you know, and all the way. So we have to continue to persevere. And like I always say, it's so hard to kill this thing called flesh, you know. But I think that's part of it, is like we just get complacent and lazy. Well, I got her now. I'm like chasing her. Well, I married him now. I don't have to cook anymore. I'm not making dinner anymore. Go heat up your own food. You know what I mean? But we have to persevere. We have to persevere for joy in our marriages. And like I said, being able to know when the enemy is trying to infiltrate your space and your marriage, and just being able to say, you know, not today.
You know, I think one thing that you talked about was our story, our first, you know, year or two of marriage. One of the things that's tough, right, for males, us men, and some women, is when you are the provider, which is the role that men tries to play. A lot of times, you know, oh, I gotta provide for my family. You know, I gotta make sure that they're good to go. Mm-hmm. And then you come to find out that you can't do it. Mm-hmm. Man, that strikes a chord in your innermost being as a man. Because now you're like, man, I did A, B, and C. I can't provide for you still. Mm-hmm. You know, I did A, B, and C, and we're still struggling financially still. I say this because that's how I was thinking. You know, I was like, man, I've married this woman. You know, I'm gonna get this, and this done so that I can provide for her. And it was tough the first year or two because she was not working. So it was just one income coming. And granted, all of our bills were paid for. But we actually lost weight. I'll tell you that. We lost weight. And because my wife, I'm thankful for the woman I married. She understands circumstances. You know, she was working with me. There were days where we ate gari.
Gari. Totally Americanized.
There's days where we ate rice and butter. You know, kind of spice it up with a little Maggi and some pepper. You know, but it was not easy though. But it definitely developed us in a way where we're like, okay, babe. I know for me, you know, it was like, okay, babe, I can't do this by myself. Now, I wasn't asking my wife to go get a job, to do A, B, and C, but it was more in the sense of my strength as a human being. I can't do it by myself. I need God. You know, because as us as men, like, our pride gets in the way a lot of times. And that, one thing we don't understand, that pride brings more suffering. Brings more suffering. Because you're not hearing no more. Even when God tries to talk to you, you're not hearing. Because you think that your ways are better. And I had to humble myself. And immediately as I started humbling myself, it helped me to start, God showed up, helped me start trusting Him. You know, relying more on Him. And that's tough, but that's something that is needed. Especially in marriage. Because it's no longer you by yourself anymore. But now you are considering her. And if you have kids, your kids.
So you have to persevere.
Yeah. But I don't want you to think that it's an obligation. It should be a joy.
Yeah.
But the only way it's going to be a joy is when you're relying on God.
Yes. Yes.
And take it for somebody that came up with a prideful mindset. Do it on my own. You know, mentality, you know, because God is the only one that can do it.
Yep, God is the ultimate source. But the gist of it all is persevere in your marriage, persevere to chase your wife, your husband, persevere to pray for your marriage. Perseverance builds character, it brings hope, and choose to rely on God for that, because I think we have seen the true meaning of that scripture of